Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Hello from wherever you are joining us today. Welcome to our webinar. This is the second in our partner enablement series, Staying Ahead, how MSPs can navigate global regulatory changes with usecure. Thank you all for joining us today. I am your host, Hetty Road, and we've got Nihil joining us today as well. He's going to be taking you through the session. So we're going to be going through a few different things. We're going to cover some updates to regulations and how you can take advantage, how you can position usecure as a compliance-first solution, what are the best practices for risk management and regulatory alignment, and how you can get started. And that's it from me. I will hand over to Nihil to begin.
Thanks, Hetty. And yeah, thanks everyone for joining the session. We had a lot of good feedback on the first enablement session that we ran last month. So we're looking to build on that today. And obviously there'll be more training and sort of education out there as well with these monthly sessions for our partners. So thank you for joining this one today. Again, I'm the Chief Revenue Officer at usecure. So my role effectively is all about making sure that we have the right processes in place for our partners to help them to grow with us. Compliance is a major factor for MSPs today. So the session today is all about how you can effectively leverage that compliance and help your clients as well. So with it being such a huge topic, and these enablement sessions are designed to be relatively quick and accessible, naturally we won't be able to cover all bases or go into specific regulations in a lot of detail today. The main aim of the session today is to essentially highlight the overall trends and the opportunity here, and also share some fundamental principles so that irrespective of where you're based or which regulatory bodies are relevant for you and your clients, you've got those sort of principles in place to guide how you could adapt to these different compliance measures. So again, I appreciate a lot of you on this session today will be existing usecure partners. For those of you who could benefit from a bit of a background refresher or are completely new to us, I just want to give you a bit of a quick summary about our background. So essentially, why is it that we have the insight into the world of compliance and how that's impacting both MSPs and their clients? usecure are a global leader in human risk management. Our entire focus as an organization is on helping MSPs to reduce human cyber risk in their client base, largely by identifying that employee cyber awareness gap and then effectively minimizing those gaps. I'll touch on this in a bit more detail in a few slides, but the vast majority of new IT security standards explicitly reference security awareness programs or human risk programs. So there's a real external drive here where organizations are required to implement essentially what we offer. So not only is there a client requirement, we provide a product that is actually designed for MSPs, which makes it really easy for you to provide the relevant solution to your clients. So we work with over 1,500 MSPs globally, around 350,000 end users use our program. So we've got a lot of experience in understanding how to align with compliance and scale this out for clients as well. So we've got a quote here to begin from Richard Tubb. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with his work. For those of you who aren't, Richard is an expert in the MSP space and was kind enough to share some insights for our session today. As Richard said, regulations such as GDPR, HIPAA, and the new DORA Act are complex, evolving, and frankly, a headache for most businesses, especially SMBs. Many simply don't have the expertise or resources to handle compliance in-house. So what we can effectively take from that is clients want to offload this responsibility. They don't want another tool, they want a solution. That's what we need to keep in mind here. Clients have a headache that they do not want to deal with. We don't need to add sort of further complication here by going through the endless clauses and controls to then justify a product that we're providing to them. Instead, we want to simply focus on communicating the overall problem, how it relates to them, how we can help them with their gaps, and what impact that has on their organization. Some of your clients will naturally want granularity when it comes to the different compliance and legislation. The vast majority, especially if your focus is SMBs, they'll simply want the peace of mind to know that they have a resolution in place. So again, compliance is becoming a pain for your clients, and that's where you as an MSP step in. So we've listed a lot of the different standards here based on different territories. those that are listed here specifically mention security awareness training or human risk management as a requirement. So in the past, cybersecurity awareness training and simulated phishing campaigns were often seen as a medium priority until an incident occurs or an auditor highlights that there's an issue. Now there is legislative weight. So it's no longer a nice to have security awareness training, simulated phishing in place. It's a requirement. And that's a huge opportunity. Many clients are either like unaware that they fall under these regulations, or they're just unsure about how to stay compliant. I think in our last enablement session, we shared the statistic that 86% of SMBs don't think they'll be able to stay compliant without external support. So MSPs can essentially plug that gap. You can own that gap with ready-made, scalable solutions, and obviously usecure is a very good partner for that space. So again, I won't go through all of these, but some of the key ones that we hear a lot would be, I suppose, HIPAA and SOC 2 in North America, GDPR, NIS2, DORA in Europe, Essential 8 in Australia. There will be a lot here, though, that again, there's 40 or so listed. It's not a complete list of global standards. There are a lot more frameworks out there that touch on other areas like data protection, breach reporting, supply chain security as well. This is a list of ones that we see come up more often and that explicitly reference human risk management, cybersecurity awareness training. So when you look at the consistent requirements across those frameworks, it can get, again, very complex, it can get very technical, and they are often long-term projects. Training and policy management are often the easiest quick wins. They're still just as important, they're still just as present, but if we want to look at ways of getting the ball rolling, of starting to help our clients to adapt, training and policy management are the most accessible and the easiest wins. And again, you can automate that entire process using usecure. So again, it comes back to the idea of providing an easy solution. That's a recurring theme when we talk about compliance, when we talk about how MSPs can package their offerings, make it easy. Usecure's program can be set up in literally 20 minutes, and that will continually run itself forever. And that often will cover the human elements that are listed in these requirements. Again, that's an incredibly easy win for a client with a list of required changes that they need to get through to get aligned with the compliance requirement. If you can offer them an accessible, easy to implement solution to tick off some of those controls, all of a sudden you start to make this less complex and overwhelming. So what does this mean for you as an MSP? So that complexity is growing. If you're based in Europe, you might have one client who needs help with ISO 27001, maybe they're looking to get certified, and they're also relevant for NIS2. They're one of those in one of those industries that are impacted by NIS2. You might also have another client who needs help with DORA and GDPR. That's before even considering if you have clients in different territories who have their own compliance requirements and maybe need to deal with POPIA if they're in South Africa, or HIPAA if they're in North America. So the complexity of compliance multiplies basically with each new requirement. And for you as an MSP, you've got a mismatch of different clients where, yes, there will be some overlap, but it's very unlikely that all of your clients will relate to one single piece of legislation. So that complexity brings opportunity. Again, if 86% of SMBs aren't confident they can get compliant on their own, they're overwhelmed, they're looking for some support and simplify this. And that's where, as an MSP, you can come in and provide compliance as a service. So as Richard Tubb outlines, one growth area that's quietly gaining momentum is compliance as a service. So compliance as a service is all about providing a clear route to compliance for your clients, with regular monitoring, reporting, and management. So if you can provide bite-sized user training, continual processing and policy management, phishing simulations, and then wrap all that together in clear reporting as part of your standard offering, and then incorporate other vendors which have that clear intent to align with the other elements of the compliance measures that we can't help with. You provide a compliance as a service package, and then you're evolving your MSPs. We know that a lot of MSPs are wanting to differentiate, a lot of MSPs are wanting to transition into being like value add MSSPs and move away from just providing like support and software licenses, and instead wrap different services together that provide more of a strategic offering. Compliance as a service can be a really good catalyst for this. Um, Not only does it help you as an MSP to generate another revenue stream, it also ring fences your clients. You're their go-to source of compliance support. They're more likely to trust you, to stick with you, to give you referrals, to buy more licenses through you as well. It makes that client much more sticky. So the overall aim here is to stop compliance from being seen as a burden and instead look at it as an opportunity. It's not going anywhere. So not only can you help your clients, but you can use this to evolve your MSP into the next iteration. So in short, compliance as a service is where you provide a purpose-built offering that has really clear, full of intent messaging around it as a solution to compliance. And that solution incorporates products that make that alignment to compliance as smooth as possible. So that's your client's route to reduce that compliance complexity. It has to be a standard offering that you put together as a bundle and then provide it as a service to help them get compliant, hence compliance as a service. So if you're going to offer compliance as a service, you obviously need a clear route to create this offering. Like we know it can be tricky to build new product lines or services to understand where to start, what to incorporate, how to license it, all that kind of stuff. To make that more accessible, we've built like a 3-point plan to create your compliance as a service product. So point one is do a bit of market research. Speak with your clients to understand exactly what they need, what legislations are relevant to them, where they might be falling a bit short, what they're most concerned about. Use that research to make sure that you're covering the relevant bases and therefore can provide that value to your clients. This helps to build that trust. It helps to build that feeling that you've almost like you've built a service with that specific client in mind. If that client doesn't know what regulations are relevant to them, that's a really good opportunity for you to become that trusted advisor, to educate them on what is actually relevant to them, what is coming in the future that they need to be aware of. And then when you then provide solutions, you've already built that trust because you're, again, educating them on the different risks out there. Step two is to upskill your team. You need to make sure that your internal team understand the key frameworks that are relevant. Again, this doesn't have to be on an incredibly granular level, but you need to be able to break it down into a few areas. What are the key frameworks? What are the core requirements? Who do those frameworks apply to? And what do you have in your stack that can help them? Again, compliance as a service, or how you can help them to get compliant with that. Again, you don't need to necessarily be an expert in this. You need to know enough to be able to identify those gaps, identify the relevancy of it, provide that guidance, and then provide a solution. We don't need to get into what specific clauses necessarily certain features can help with. It's more about uh, the overall movement towards compliance. And finally, you want to use tech to automate this process. So it's, again, vital to make this easy, both for you as an MSP, but also for your clients. So find tools that clearly align with the requirements and that allow you to plug those requirements with minimal fuss. Again, compliance isn't going anywhere. It's not likely to get scaled back. It's likely to be scaled up. So work with vendors that make this scalable, that allow you to deploy it en masse very easily. So before we go into how to effectively like run and maximize a compliance as a service offering, it's important to understand and reinforce how usecure specifically could help you with this process. So firstly, the core elements of compliance are, they often reference user training, policy deployment, and regular reporting. Those elements already exist within usecure. That is our core offering, essentially. We can create and deploy personalized bite-sized training. We can send policies to staff members to inform them of key responsibilities. We can pull all this information together into digestible reports with trending data. Auditors really latch onto our platform as it's clear that there's thought behind the processes. If you had 3 or 4 vendors offering those different things, it feels like a collection of modules. Um, or collection of vendors, sorry, that sort of built in and trying to plug different gaps. If you have it all within one solution and the reporting reflects that, it shows that there's a logical process in place and everything weaves together very nicely. Also, within usecure, we have pre-built content specifically for different standards like GDPR, HIPAA, NIS2. And again, this comes back to the point of making it easy. You want content ready to go. Another point is about reducing human risk proactively. So often with with human cyber risk, it's reactive after an incident. With usecure, you can be proactive. So you can send simulated phishing attacks to identify risk before it happens. You can then profile users based on their interaction and that associated risk, and then we can have specific sort of escalation processes with those at-risk users. Your clients will really latch onto this if we're able to communicate the value of being proactive rather than reactive. And again, auditors are on the lookout for this mindset too. They want to approve clients who have, again, that logical process, that clear intent about how they've mapped out their processes to align with compliance. And finally, again, with usecure being designed for MSPs, again, it's really important to reinforce it is entirely scalable. So we've designed it so that in around 20 to 30 minutes, you can have regular training, phishing simulations, policies deployed, and dark web monitoring. And again, with that trend-based reporting wrapped around it all, and it will take care of itself. The more that we can keep you out of the usecure products, the better it is, the more scalable it is. So I want to move on to running through how to actually successfully incorporate compliance and essentially compliance as a service into your offering. So again, the ultimate end goal here is to incorporate processes that are relevant and that support compliance in every single client. So the first step is to include compliance as a topic in every onboarding process, and then make this a standardized packaged offering. So you need to obviously, I suppose, motivate them to have that conversation, bring it up, get them thinking about compliance, get them verbalizing any concerns that they have, and then support them with a standardized offering. If your clients feel like this is optional, and it's then so difficult to then build urgency around it. It then builds this sort of perception that compliance is optional, which it simply isn't. Remember, this isn't being driven by you, it's being driven by external bodies. You're simply offering a service that make that adaptation easier. Again, it's about solutions to problems, not just focusing on the products themselves. So that tone needs to be set really early. We need to understand that individual client's requirements, and then we need to educate them and plug any gaps in their knowledge. We can then provide a solution in a much more effective way. And again, solution is the really key word here. If you find complementary vendors that align well with your frameworks and you create a framework package, again, that works very, very effectively. And again, it comes back to the point of it not being optional, and the messaging really needs to reflect that. So you could go to your client and say, look, so because you work in this industry, NIS2 applies to your organization. We can handle the human risk element and maybe the supply chain management parts of the directive with our NIS2 package. And that leaves you to focus on growing your business. That last bit is really important. The company owners don't, compliance isn't something which they are actively seeking. They just have to get aligned with. What they're actively seeking is time to build their company. So you're telling them that with that kind of messaging that you can take care of the complex headache that they never really wanted, and they can focus on what they actually want to do. Again, the best way to reinforce that messaging is by creating a package. If you make it a pick and choose a la carte option, it multiplies the number of decisions, and it also tells them that partial compliance is an option. Make this simple. Does your client need to be compliant? If yes, they need your compliance as a service package to get aligned. Again, this process isn't just for new clients. You can transition existing clients across onto a new package. A really good way of starting that journey is by running a compliance evaluation. So create a questionnaire. This can be done for new clients, but also existing ones. Create a questionnaire, assess their knowledge of relevant legislation and also their readiness, and then use that as your prompt to then dig deeper and talk about your compliance offering. And again, standardize your onboarding and reporting so it's consistent. You want to give them regular QBR reports. They can see the engagement and they get the insight to reinforce that you're providing a valuable service. It's also really important to make sure that you can provide what feels like a specific, a tailored service without creating a massive workload for you. So to help to make this tailored, you need to make sure that you're, again, referencing the specific standard and the relevant clauses within, just a few references, just to make sure that it's nice and bespoke. You can then use our regulation sort of aligned content to provide a service that matches what they need. And again, by doing this, you're showing your clients that you're providing something that's aligned with what they actually need. You understand their challenges as a modern client, and that you have something that will help take away that compliance headache. You'll then be able to onboard clients that are offering much more smoothly and efficiently. So it's important to use risk insights to drive those client conversations. Even with the prompt and the sort of shadow of compliance, we know clients often need data to give them the extra extra nudge, the extra motivation to act now. So with usecure, we provide a massive range of data to highlight those user risks. It's really important to use that as a proof of concept for those that haven't signed up for the program yet. So as an MSP, you can set them up with a 2-week free trial. Send a targeted phishing attack. There are a ton of templates in the usecure platform ready to go that we know get high engagement with clients who aren't on the program. Utilize them. Send a targeted phishing attack. That'll grab the attention of the stakeholders. And then you can prevent risk and compliance in a compelling combination together. With existing customers, if you incorporate metrics like their phishing engagement, their risk scores, their training completion rates into your QBRs, you help to continually reinforce the value that you're providing. Make it clear, make it obvious. One of the unintended consequences of the automation is that sometimes clients don't get the hands-on information that they might do if they had to actually log in and run the platform themselves. So utilize the performance reports that we have to highlight the progress that they've made up until now, but also highlight the gaps that still exist and the progress needed moving forward. When we think about what execs are looking for and what they're drawn towards, it's often that type of reporting, those type of metrics. So it's a really powerful way to encourage stickiness with your clients as well. You can also use our risk reporting to encourage cross-sells or, again, link in other parts of your compliance package and emphasize how there's been intent about how you've built this bundle. The solutions that you're providing are interconnected and they're chosen by design, basically, to cover as many bases as possible. So again, automation is the absolute key to scaling. It all keeps coming back to that point of making this easy. As mentioned, with usecure, you can completely automate the human risk program. You can even set up preset configs so that new clients have different settings already enabled for them. So you can standardize your preferences for your clients. Maybe as part of your compliance as a service package, you mandate they would receive monthly training and quarterly phishing. You can set that up as a default for every new customer, so you don't have to go through take away the mental load, basically, of how you set up each individual customer. We can then also keep engagement really high with that automation. We can identify low engagement and we can proactively fix that before it gets flagged. And finally, I know we haven't really gone into our specific feature set in too much detail, but I did want to highlight uPolicy as a module more specifically. So again, uPolicy is our document management tool. Clearly documented processes are absolutely crucial for compliance. It makes an auditor happy, it formalizes things internally for that client, and it also helps build shared responsibility within the client. The relevant stakeholders need to be aware of what's expected of them. A lot of these compliance measures specifically say the relevant stakeholders must be aware of what's expected of them. We need to communicate that to them properly. This is an area that most clients really struggle with, and they probably have less of a clear route to improvement on. It's relatively easy to understand how to train staff members on cybersecurity. Right? You implement a training program, you enable auto-enroll, get the gap analysis, it's ticked off very easily and effectively. When it comes to policies to help align with things like SOC 2 or ISO 27001, that can be a lot more daunting. That can be a lot more technical, a lot more involved. Where does the client source these policies? How do they get their staff members familiar with those policies and processes? How do they prove to an auditor that they've been sending those policies and they've been logging informed consent? How do they do all that in an efficient way that doesn't detract from their ability to do their normal day job and run their business? So uPolicy is a really great tool to provide a very simple but effective solution. So within uPolicy, we have like a raft of policy templates preloaded. They're designed to align with the policies required for a lot of compliance measures. Those policies can be sent out on an automated schedule, and the user acknowledgement is timestamped and reported on. So in a few clicks, you could show an auditor your client's email policy within usecure. You could show them a list of who it was sent to and when each of them gave their informed consent. So those policies are then continually managed based on your requirements and your preferences. So a new starter, when they get added into usecure, they would automatically be sent that document, and they would be asked to opt in again on a set schedule, maybe every 2 years. There's no more manual processes and room for human error. usecure essentially standardizes the policies and their deployment. Again, a lot of you, if you are existing partners, might have utilized a lot of the training and phishing and maybe not known how to weave in uPolicy into your offering. Compliance is the perfect hook to get it incorporated. And again, all of this allows you to manage more clients with less effort. I want to touch on some of the common compliance mistakes MSPs make. As you evolve your offering and messaging, it's important to keep these in mind and try to avoid them. So quite often partners will deliver relatively informal training, which can be really difficult to report on. Make sure the measures that you implement are all clearly logged and reported on. This will align with what auditors hope to see. Ultimately, if we want to get compliant, we have to prove we're compliant. So we need to make sure we have the metrics to support it. It's also important to remember that compliance is a continual process. Regulations evolve, staff members come and go. We need to make sure that this is a continual process of development and reinforcement, and that new starters aren't left behind. One of the sort of, I suppose, unintended impact of being a proactive partner is that it can sometimes lead to complacency from the client. Our MSP is taking care of GDPR compliance for us, so we just leave that to them. It's really important that you reinforce that this is a collaborative process. It doesn't matter how much support and value you're providing, the client must still be aware of their own responsibilities. Again, uPolicy really helps to reinforce that. It's important to make sure that you take the time to research region or industry specific frameworks. So broad regulations like GDPR will apply to those who do business in or with Europe. But NIS2 also impacts around 160,000 companies. NIS1 covered 6 sectors, NIS2 covers 15. So it's important not to miss those specific frameworks that almost come under things like GDPR when it comes to that granularity. And finally, a really common mistake is simply waiting. If you wait for audits to react, you're on the back foot. Auditors react really well to proactive companies. If you wait to incorporate compliance as a service into your messaging and offering, you risk your clients becoming more antsy, becoming more concerned about compliance, feeling like there's an urgency that's building from the external pressure, and then looking elsewhere for support. Again, remember, 86% of SMBs are not confident they can get compliant without external help. We can be proactive and make sure that we are the source of that help. So I appreciate we've covered a lot today. So here are the 3 things, just to summarize, that we'd recommend to do now. If you're thinking, okay, it's a lot of information, what do I actually do off the back of this? Step 1, make compliance part of every onboarding process, and do compliance reviews with existing customers too. Identify this gap. Step 2, automate wherever possible using usecure. This is also crucial when you look for other vendors to support with the non-human elements of compliance, but like we showed in one of the earlier slides, there was about 40 regulations there that explicitly mandate security awareness training or human risk management. Use usecure to plug that gap very quickly. And finally, present compliance as like a critical, continual, high-value service. again, use modules like uPolicy and that reporting that gives you that value and reinforces the retention. So it's really important to take some action now. It's like I mentioned on the last slide that one of the main issues is it's waiting. The ultimate aim here is compliance as a service, where you have a purpose-built offering specifically for compliance, and that's offered as a standard bundle. I appreciate that can be quite a big jump. If you're not quite ready to build that product yet, then get the ball rolling now with something. Start that evolution, incorporate it into your messaging, offer entry level compliance services, even if it's again just that small step of a compliance questionnaire, and over time evolve and build towards a more like comprehensive compliance offering. Again, compliance isn't going anywhere. It's only going to get more complex. Your client base are already wary of the topic and the processes that they'll have to implement sooner or later anyway. Like it's a looming thing that they're aware of. It's the perfect opportunity for you to provide those solutions and ultimately help your clients. So I will just pass back over to Hetty to go over the next steps.
Thanks, Nihil. Okay, so yeah, following today's session, there is a few things that you can expect from us. You will receive a recording of the webinar today. You will get that within 24 hours of the session being live. If you have any issues, then please do drop me an email. You'll also get a copy of the compliance checklist and links to all the relevant resources we have covered today. But if there is, again, anything in particular that you want from today, any other questions you have, drop me an email at marketing@usecure.io. You can also book a strategy session with your account manager if you are interested, or if you aren't already a usecure partner, please just take a moment right now to scan the QR code that's on the screen. This will allow you to schedule a demo with a member of the team, and also will enable you to get a free NFR license as well. So yeah, I just want to thank you all for joining today and listening to the session, and we hope you have a great day.